If this is your first time here, welcome. If you've been walking this quiet road with me for a while now, welcome back. You've found a different kind of corner. No noise, no outrage, no endless scrolling, just space. I live alone in the woods of West Virginia, not to escape the world, but to see it more clearly. And every now and then, a thought rises to the surface. Not polished, not performed, just honest. These are the reflections most people don't slow down long enough to notice, the kind that sit with you, the kind that don't demand attention, but earn it. If you value solitude, if you think better when the world goes quiet, if you've ever felt more yourself when you're alone, you're in the right place. Let's take a few minutes and think. Thinking on paper in a loud world. Most people think learning is about collecting information. More books, more videos, more podcasts, more saved posts, more screenshots, more notes. But somewhere along the way, a lot of us stopped actually thinking. We became collectors of information instead of people who sit quietly long enough to let an idea change us. And I think solitude changes the way you learn, not because solitude magically makes you smarter, but because quiet gives your mind room to respond. I was listening to someone talk about how PhD students often take notes differently than everyone else. Not just copying information, but interacting with it. Writing thoughts beside ideas. Challenging things. Expanding them. Letting one idea lead to another. And honestly, that struck me harder than the actual note-taking advice. Because that's not really about school. That's about living thoughtfully. That's about refusing to move through life as a passive consumer. Most people today are drowning in information, but starving for reflection. Everything is fast now. Watch this. Scroll that. React instantly. Move on immediately. Nobody sits with anything anymore. Nobody lets an idea simmer long enough to become part of them. And I think queer solitude creates a different kind of environment for the mind. When you spend time alone intentionally, you start developing an inner dialogue. You stop immediately asking, what does everybody else think about this? And you start asking, what do I think about this? That changes everything, because real learning is not memorization. Real learning happens when information collides with your lived experience. It happens when a sentence reminds you of grief, or survival, or loneliness, or healing, or the moment you finally understood yourself. That's why some books stay with you forever, while others disappear the second you close them. One entered your memory, the other entered your life. I think a lot about how often people consume meaningful ideas without ever making contact with themselves. They highlight entire pages, save hundreds of videos, take endless notes, but never stop long enough to ask, what inside me reacted to this? That question matters more than most people realize, because the reaction is where self-knowledge lives. And honestly, I think this is one reason solitude can feel so powerful for introspective queer people. When the world stops talking long enough, you finally hear your own voice. Not the performed voice, not the survival voice, not the people-pleasing voice, your actual voice, the one underneath all the noise. That's why journaling matters. That's why reading slowly matters. That's why long walks matter. That's why sitting quietly with your thoughts matters. You're not wasting time. You're building a relationship with your own mind. And in a loud world, that relationship becomes sacred. I think some of the deepest thinking happens far away from classrooms anyway. Sitting on a porch during rain, walking a trail with a dog, cooking slowly in silence, stopping halfway through a book because one paragraph hit something inside you so deeply that you need an hour just to think about it. That's thinking on paper. That's thinking in solitude. That's thinking in a way modern life rarely encourages anymore. And maybe that's the real point. Maybe the goal isn't to consume more information. Maybe the goal is to become someone who actually knows how to sit with an idea long enough for it to transform them. That kind of thinking changes a person slowly, quietly, but permanently. And that's today's thought. Nothing loud, nothing flashy, just something to carry with you as you move through your own quiet. If it stirred something in you, sit with it. If it challenged you, good. If it gave you a little more clarity, even better. If you value this kind of space, help keep it alive. Like the video. Share it with someone who thinks better in silence. And subscribe so you don't miss the next reflection. Until next time, protect your quiet.